Hey everybody, this is Chris. It's time for Chapter 3 of the Sitting Bench Chopumentary, with the focus being on design and construction. I'll be collaborating with Matt Cremona today, and we'll look at both hand tool approaches and modern power tool approaches. Now, if you don't know who Matt is, he's an amazingly talented YouTuber who designed and built his own bandsaw mill, and he's an incredible craftsman, artist, and teacher. So make sure you subscribe to his channel, and I'll have the links in the cards and the description section. Here we go. Hey everybody, this is Chris. I'm here with Matt Cremona up in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. We're continuing on my Sitting Bench Chopumentary. This is Chapter 3. What we're going to do is compare and contrast how I built this sitting bench using just hand tools versus how Matt would do it, and look at some various things he's built and look at the different tools and techniques we use. So let's start going through the video, and we'll add in as we need to.
All right.
It's about a year later. The moisture level on the log is at about 10%, so it's stable enough to work on. Now it's neither flat nor straight, but we can fix that later. I just want to point out one key feature on the bottom of the log. I left some extra meat on it on both sides, and this is where I'm going to inset the legs. I guess the point I'd make on the log itself is I left everything extra thick and extra wide because there was some twisting and warping, and it gave me room to take stuff off and still have it be flat and straight. So that was key, so I make it extra thick. In terms of the legs, I've got these crotches from the tree, and I've got a long cross support to go in between them. I want the sitting bench design to match the design of the dining room table. So it's going to be walnut in the middle and chestnut on the outside. Well, here's a pile of chestnut. Well, it's oak and chestnut, so we're going to dig some of these boards out. Very exciting. We pulled all the chestnut out of the pile. Quite a bit of it here. Good stuff. $60. I'll take it. $60.
Sign me up.
Isn't that amazing?
Sign me up.
I mean, some of it was crooked, but still, it's chestnut from an old. It was an apple farm. It's a 150-year-old barn that they had taken down, and yeah, it was. I think the guy who owned it, he was so sick and tired of digging the wood out and getting covered in ants like I did that he was just like $60. I was like, okay. Now, as I said, this log is neither straight nor flat. So I'm going to use the straightest and flattest thing I have to guide me in making this bench. So I'm going to use the chestnut boards as my guide and inset them into the log first, deeper than the log itself, and then smooth the log down to match it. That'll make sure that it's pretty straight and pretty flat. Now this is for people's butts. So this does not have to be perfectly straight and flat. It just needs to make sure there's no slivers. So let's first plane down the boards, and then we'll work to inset them into the log. If you look closely at this board, there's a lot of nails on two of the sides. So I'm going to basically have the good side on top and this other good side facing out. And then this will go into the walnut and this will go into the walnut. I've planed down the chestnut, and the sides with all the nail holes are going to be inset. They won't be showing. Now this is where it gets interesting. The log is not flat or straight, and I'm concerned about being centered on it. So I'm just going to basically pick a center and then inset the boards based on that center. Now I basically need to rip both sides of this log, and so the right application would be to use my amazing Japanese whaleback saw. By the way, look up in the top corner.
I was on my way.
King Kong, she's juggling there. Isn't that cool? I just noticed that. Normally I don't have that, but nothing can distract from the whaleback saw.
No, nothing.
That's just amazing. Chris from Adventures in DIY put me onto these, and it's amazing how well they cut. I mean, it's just amazing.
Every time I see those things, I'm like, they're just ridiculous and awesome, and they work really well.
They do. But remember, I left the meat here in 2 spots on the log for the legs. And I don't want to cut through that, so I'm just going to use my boring old saws and rip it to here, then rip the center section, then rip the other section, and just take out very sparingly the wood where it's extra thick. And that way, if I leave that, it'll help support the board when I inset it. Sorry, baby. Next time. Well, see, the problem with a regular rip saw is it's hard to cut straight. They get wonky, where the whaleback saw, it's so thick and stiff it cuts perfectly straight. So that's the advantage of the whaleback saw versus the other ones. But I struggle with, again, using a rip saw, having it stay straight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use my bit and brace to cut a few holes in here so I can open this up and start ripping it again. Okay, the boards, as I said before, are going to go on each side here. And now I'm going to take a look at how the surface lines up. You can see now I've got the boards in place, and this log is kind of wavy. It's high at the top, then it dips down, then a big hump in the middle, and then it dips down again. So now I'm going to take the log down to match the boards. Since there's so much material to remove, I'm going to use a scrub plane. Now scrub planes are typically narrower, have a wider throat, and a more aggressive cut on the blade. And that allows you to remove more material quicker. Or how would you go about straightening out a warp piece?
What is wrong with the jointer?
Okay.
One pass, 2 pass, flat, done.
You don't get much joy out of it. You know how much joy I get out of doing that?
I get joy out of other things in life.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Here we go. Gotta love the scrub plane. Took that down real nice. I'm just thinking, if you were to make a bench like this, and maybe you probably maybe not necessarily have those wings I left, but would you basically attach the whole thing together and then put it through the planer?
I could. It depends on mood, I guess. Or I could mill them up individually and put them all together, because they're all the same thickness and they're all flat and true.
Okay.
So there is no waviness to any of them. If I was doing something like this, where I want to leave the bottom, those things on the bottom, I would do pretty much what you did there. I'd flatten the faces where they'd be joined together, glue the chestnut to the walnut, and then just joint the whole top surface flat in one unit.
You have a joiner that's wide? That's wide enough for that?
How wide is that?
It's like 14 inches.
I can do 12, so I joint the first 12 inches with the jointer and then a hand plane the rest of it flush.
Got it.
So we're talking about the jointer inside, we were talking about how you flatten the top. So what I would do is just take the whole top, put it all together, and then run it over my jointer, which just makes things flat. So it has a cutter head and 2 beds that are in the same plane, and that allows you to make things flat with little effort, comparatively. So you can take a board that has any kind of distortion, cup, warp, or cup, bow, twist, or warp, is that all 4? I don't know, whatever. Any kind of deformity, it'll make things flat. So it does one job, just make things flat.
Got it.
But it's very good at that.
Okay, so if you had multiple pieces that had different thicknesses to them, like mine was, Then you said you'll attach it all together and then you'll run it through there several times in different orientations?
Yeah, so in the case of your bench, since the bottom side doesn't really matter, it doesn't matter if that's all flat or fleshed up, I would just joint the top flat and leave the bottom exactly how it was in your case.
You can see that it's not flush between the log and the boards. So I have some work to do to make this fit cleanly. I've got a couple high spots here I need to take down. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now for the other side. This side is really bad. Really bad. Big bow in the middle. The log isn't straight and the board isn't straight. Looks like I'm gonna have to break out the big guns. Oh yeah! The slick chisel. You may recall the handle I made for this on my foot power lathe. Some of you may have seen that video. All right, that's looking pretty good. Pretty good. I always find an excuse to use my slick. It's awesome. Well, here's what the back looks like. You can see I've got these steps on both sides, and then I'll peg these, which will make this nice and sturdy. I am really happy with how this is turning out. All right, I finished the top, and I'm so excited with how this turned out. It's very rustic looking, but very clean, no slivers, and when I oil this up, it's gonna look spectacular! Very excited. So, now let's work on the bottom. So you can see I haven't finished off the bottom. It's got the fat pieces there, which is helping support the boards in addition to the pegs, because I like to keep things simple. And now I'm going to put the legs on, which are from the crotch of the tree. And I'm going to be fashioning these with a square end and fitting them into the fat parts here. And then I'm going to have the cross support. I just want to share with you a problem I ran into. When I split this log, it ended up being really thin right in here. And I'd hoped this would be the area I could inset into this part of the log. But since it's so thin, I'm going to have to basically go higher where the slot is and cut this off a little higher down here. So it's not going to be as nice as I thought, but that's the way the log splits sometimes. I fitted the legs into the bench. Now it's not a perfect fit, it's very rough, but it doesn't matter because no one's going to see it. So I'm not going to try and make it perfect. Now I'm going to install the trestle. Now recall, it's really thin right here. The wood is probably a 1/4 inch thick through parts of this. So I'm going to install the trestle much lower than I would prefer, but that's the way it is. Okay, I've got the bench top level, and I'm going to measure from the floor up to get the right height. All right. I want to be crystal clear on how I assembled the base. So I've drilled a hole through the tongue and groove. Then I've pegged it. So now that can't come out. Then I put the cross support in. With the tapered peg, locks it in place.
So the top on this one is 2 boards joined together, and then the other bench on the other side is a single board. but both boards came from the same log. So I just have a really simple flat top, and then the base is kind of a trestle style kind of thing, which is all dirty from being out here for a year already. So there's two side assemblies in this kind of, I don't know, H or A-frame kind of looking thing. And all the joinery on here is Morrison tenon, and it's all drawboard, so it has those pegs that pull the joints closed.
There's slightly offset holes then?
Exactly, they're
Okay.
slightly offset, so when you drive the peg through there, it just pulls the joint together, and you don't have to worry about clamping it either. So I could do this whole glue up and get it all assembled without having to put any clamps on it, which
Got
made
it.
it really easy, because this bench is like 8 feet long,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
Mary? Do you do a reveal with your wife when you make stuff? Or she's like,
She's
here.
seen it.
Okay. Yeah, only for things for Mary, like that she wants me to make for a special, then I'll do like a big reveal.
It's really hard for me to keep anything from her.
Deal.
It's really hard for me to keep anything from her.
Oh, damn, that's long.
Well, happy 26 and a half year anniversary. Moose, it's not for you.
Oh, buddies.
Ready?
Holy shit, that looks just like the table. That is really nice. This is great.
Have a seat.
Oh, wow. I didn't think it'd be this wide. This is great. Oh, that is perfect. That's great. I really like that.
So you only want one bench? You don't want two?
No. One bench is enough.
Well.
So she officially wants another bench. But I'm not sure when she'll get it. Thanks, Isabel. Thank you so much for suggesting that to Mary.
Oh. More projects for you.
Well, that concludes Chapter 3. I hope you found it informative. I just want to thank Matt Cremona. Matt, you are so helpful, you're so knowledgeable. I appreciate you for inviting me into your home. But actually, I guess I invited myself. But anyway, you were great. Everyone benefited from your teaching. So thank you so much. Now everybody, one more chapter to go. Chapter 4 is going to be focused on video production and editing. I appreciate if you could subscribe to me on YouTube and follow me on Instagram at ChopWithChris. And make sure you subscribe to Matt Cremona. Thank you.